I think there's this interesting piece because as I was thinking about that, if it's okay, well then how does a leader shift? And as I kept trying to define that more and more, what comes to mind is it's not how do you shift, it's just whether or not you make the shift, I think is the difference.
Hey, welcome to 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. We're a father-son leadership podcast where we talk with other lifelong learners about making an impact and solving big problems. And I wasn't going to do my normal banter, but that's hard for me not to do. Because I
thought you were going to make fun of me for the planes getting picked up, Sound of Freedom going. I saw the mic going a little bit on that one.
I'd never, after all that time living at the end of an airfield in Iraq and Afghanistan, never get tired of it. Never get tired of it.
So, it's a little old out here, I might say, sometimes.
Yeah, maybe. I could see that when it wakes your daughter up.
Fortunately, I think she's more used to it than I am at this point. Honestly, all that talk, she can wake up. That's one thing. The fact that dogs don't bark at it is just that's heaven sent right there.
That is weird though, ain't it? That dogs don't.
You would think they would.
Yeah, maybe they ain't smart enough to go, oh, that's a really loud sound coming from above me. I should bark at it. But if a car drives by and makes the same sound, they'll freak out. Maybe it's an elevation thing.
I don't know, but then that's not good survival instincts because that's how a dog like Gumbo gets swooped up by one of them hawks out here.
By a pterodactyl.
Yeah, I know. It's screaming the whole way. You didn't even see it.
There you go. Got to watch out for them pterodactyls.
Yes, sir. If they were anywhere, it'd probably be out here.
Yep. The P is silent. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know why I'm just picturing T-shirts with Tucson with the P on it. I don't know who the hell buy those shirts, but
there'd be some folks. If you put a picture on there, the right picture, probably a pterodactyl picture, the Tucson pterodactyl. There's your rugby club.
The Tucson pterodactyls. Okay, if I get roped into starting a club,
make the symbol 2 Ps.
That's pretty damn good, actually.
Marketing freaking genius right there. People would folks. Eat that shit up. Oh my gosh, they would eat that up.
Why is your logo 2 Ps? Oh, they're silent. What?
That's awesome. Yeah. I call up, Norm's moving to Phoenix, and so that don't count no more. Can't call him up. You got to find you a T-shirt, buddy.
Yeah, I know. My buddy's slinging T-shirts. I don't got a buddy slinging T-shirts anymore down here, so that's all right. Go to the old-fashioned Vista print and custom ink and all them.
Now, you know who has a guy.
Oh, yeah, actually I do. That's true. We do got a guy in town. Got a guy in town for denim too. While we're at it.
Yeah, there you go. You probably got some competition. Probably got one right around the corner, just down the street.
No kidding.
Next to that fruit stand we go to.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh! If they make it so to shift into leadership and business conversation, if that business survives the construction of the road there over the next 3 to 5 years, that would be an amazing example of leadership. There you go.
Yeah, resiliency in the leadership and. Things like that are a crisis when they first happen. But then you realize, holy shit, this is going to go for 3 years. And, Miss Suzanne and I complaining about our road being closed for, a month and a half. Oh, terrible, man. We're just like Tucson. I can't believe it. Da, da, da. And then one day we're driving down there and it's open. It's like, oh, I guess we ain't like Tucson. But it's funny though, because when that affects your business, for Miss Susanna, it affected her business because she had to drive probably a whopping 5 minutes extra to get somewhere because of that. it feels like a crisis when it happens. It's always interesting when that crisis happens, and then it becomes to use the Rona quote, the new normal. It becomes that a crisis is no longer a crisis. It's just the way it is. So you got to figure that shit out and, keep pushing forward. I think that's the biggest thing. Once you realize that, the crisis, whether it's a forest fire, flood, a road closed, whatever. Yeah. The forest.
You just reminded me to look out for our fire that's burning up on the mountain up here.
They're crisis when it happens, but you know what? On the other side of the crisis is life. So how do you lead people through that?
Yeah, and I think there's this interesting transition point of when does it go from crisis to just new normal or whatever it is, right? And I think there's this interesting piece because as I was thinking about that, it's okay, well then how does a leader shift? And as I kept trying to define that more and more, what comes to mind is it's not how do you shift, it's just whether or not you make the shift, I think is the difference. Because when we're in crisis mode, we're allowed to skip things. We're allowed to ignore problems. We're allowed to, just put everything in this corner and focus over here and ignore all that stuff over here. We're allowed to do that when we're in crisis mode. And I think that's partially why people keep themselves in crisis mode. That's another conversation there. But then I think to your point, we make that choice of, okay, hey, I don't know how long this is going to go on, but it's not changing anytime soon. We can't just stay in this holding pattern forever. We have to make that adjustment. And I think that's the real choice of making that conscious decision of we're not going to let this be crisis. Yeah, things aren't normal. Maybe it's a new normal. Maybe it's better next week. I don't know. But we're not going to allow the situation to dictate our actions. And you start being proactive with it. I think that's that real shift. And I'd love to throw it to you of what do you think is the key to making that initial shift? Where do you think people get stuck making that transition?
Well, first off, it has to start with, what's changed, an analysis of what's changed and how do the current systems I have need to change in order to adapt to the changed environment. That's the critical thing, because if you don't have systems, then the other side of the crisis becomes that much more difficult to get back to normal operating procedures. Because there's a lot of businesses out there that normal operating procedures are, we just get shit done, right? They don't have a system. And that's why I've talked with a lot.
That's one of the answers in the 7 C's leadership quiz, which is what is your operation plan? And it says get shit done is the 1-point answer.
Well, it's interesting.
Which really we should add a 0 point to that of I don't even get shit done.
The none of the above. It reminds me, though, because I've talked with a lot of M&A folks and investors, and it's really interesting when people want to sell their business and they start to, hey, I make, we do $10 million in revenue every year. Okay, well, what's your profit? Profit? We do 10 million in revenue. Okay, what's your profit? Well, I pay myself $150K, and I pay all my employees pretty good. Okay. You know what? You ain't going to get 10 mil for that business. You ain't going to get an EBITDA multiple either, because that business is, you're lucky to be above water in a business like that. Miss Suzanne had a fellow franchisee up the road, and I always remember when she put that business up for sale. I think it was I think they were doing about $1 million in revenue, and we weren't really looking to buy it, but we were just curious, and we started peeling back the onion. And she had 2 or 3 managers, had an office building, had a couple of company cars. Basically, there was zero profit in the business.
Yeah.
It was their EBITDA was like almost nothing. And she's like, I can't understand why nobody wants to buy my very successful business. Look at this great
It,
revenue.
and that's a
Yeah.
franchise, but it does get to what I think is the core issue that businesses run into, which is entrepreneurs thrive in the chaos, thrive in that crisis mode, and so we don't necessarily shift things out of crisis mode. We're so comfortable with it that we don't need to make sure we have an actual system in place, because I kind of like it when Otis calls me and I have to go put out a fire. Like whether we tell ourselves that or not, that's kind of what tends to happen. Or the other thing we tell ourselves is, this isn't that big of a deal. I can put out the fire when he calls. And we tell ourselves things are okay like that. But naturally, you're going to run into those barriers when you try to sell, when you try to grow. We're going through this actually on yesterday's Hard Chargers call. I was talking about this with the Engage Foundation. I'm the second president for the Engage Foundation. We are starting to hit all of those normal transition of power problems. Mm-hmm. I don't get all the emails. You get the email, but then he's the one who controls the email list, and she does social media, and he does, and it's all these different things. It's all great. We're all volunteers. We all get stuff done, going back to it, right? But at the end of the day, to systemize things takes that time to move forward and get out of that crisis mode. And I think that's where we can get stuck a lot of the time, is not making that intentional effort to change it and get out of that crisis. Whether it's because we, secretly like the crisis or not, or we're just a little lazy, maybe we think we can't do it. There's a lot of reasons, but we tend to keep ourselves in there and not allow ourselves to go make things better like that. And I wanted to shift into like talking about the crisis and like leading through crisis. I want to get into more of like the leadership aspects, less strategy, more like team stuff. And one of the things that came to mind when you were talking earlier about crisis and like being in the crisis, and you said, well, what changed? What actually changed? What was the real impact? Hey, there's a pandemic. Hey, there's a forest fire. What is the thing that's actually changing? And for a lot of those examples, and maybe it's just the examples that you happen to throw out there, there's some other options. But with those examples, what came to mind is things don't necessarily change much. There can be something where, like the new normal for a lot of businesses, did the pandemic really impact them directly? No, it kind of made everyone go a little crazy, and then that impacted their business. But like their business themselves, they were fine. They weren't a restaurant, right? So what happens then is a lot of the leaders, I think, can look at that and go, okay, things are fine, and not meet their team where they are. And I think that's the first piece of this, like of the empathy, we talk about with Steel Mint Tribe, leading with strength and empathy, is you have to meet the team where they are. Even if they're just freaking out because there's a fire down the street and their house isn't on fire, you can't go, Janet, I don't know why you're so upset. It's 100 miles away. She's like, dude, when I wake up in the morning, there's flames. I don't care that my house is on fire. That's freaking scary. I don't want to go to work. Like there's this real stress to it. And I would love to know from your perspective, because you've talked about the highest stress situations as a Green Beret, what are your thoughts on how to manage that stress? Because the whole, suck it up, it's not that big of a deal. That don't work in business much.
Oh, no, it doesn't. And, you hit the nail on the head though with empathy as a leader. When you have that team member that's going through some sort of crisis, whether it's in their role in the business or at home, you've got to let them acknowledge. That's the word I was looking for. Acknowledge and validate what they're going through. That's actually a coaching phraseology I learned getting certified as a coach, is you acknowledge and validate it. And all that is, not to belittle it, but it's not that hard to do, because as soon as you acknowledge, wow, that's really a crappy situation, man. I could see how you're having trouble dealing with that. You notice I didn't agree with it. That's the big difference. I didn't put myself in the crisis with the person. I said, wow, I recognize their feelings, because a crisis, just like chaos that I talk about all the time with my keynote, it's mental. A crisis is mental. I mean, bullets can be flinging by you, like the good colonel in Apocalypse Now that I'm just drawing a blank on. an apocalypse now. Shit's getting blown up, indirect fires coming in, and he's walking around. It's not a crisis to him. It wasn't chaos to him. He was calm in it. And he recognized, when you watch that scene, you watch leadership happen. Golly. I was trying to think of the actor's name now too. I can't even think of the actor's name. I've recognized that I could just call this a game show fright is what it is. but Robert Duvall is the actor, and it's a chaotic scene. They're in, the people, the soldiers right there in they're not in a foxhole. They're like in a bomb crater, are in crisis mode. They see chaos all around them and put them in crisis mode. Mm-hmm. And all he does is he comes up to them and starts talking to them in a calm, normal state of voice. He doesn't do the full on, like I said, acknowledge and validate, but he helps those young soldiers see that it ain't as bad as you think it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could die, but you know what? Fucking tree could fall on you right now too, and you could die. It's that kind of thing that he's saying, hey, we just got a thing to do. And I think as a leader, you have to have that air about you, that calmness in crisis, to lead your team out of it, because that's your job. I mean, goddamn, do your job. Do your job, because if you ain't doing your job, who is? It ain't going to get any better. If you got that fruit stand down the road, and you just got this letter from the city that says, by the way, there will be no vehicle access to your business for the next 3 years, unless they figure out how to come in some weird back road way.
Last time I went there, my Nissan barely made it.
Yeah. I mean, it's that crazy. But you know what? If the owner isn't doing something about it, guess what his team's going to start doing? They're sitting there going, wow, there's not as many people coming in. And it could be the exact same number of people. That's the irony of it, right?
Yeah.
They start believing, because their construction, their numbers have dropped. And because our numbers have dropped, we're probably going to start laying people off. And when we start laying people off, they'll probably go out of business. I'm going to lose my job. And if I lose my job, I'm going to lose my house. Oh, my God. Yeah. And that leader, hopefully Jose is coming in there and talking to his team and saying, here's the deal, guys. We're probably going to have a drop in foot traffic, drop-ins. But you know what? That young couple and that cute little girl that live across the other side of the road, I guarantee they're still going to come in about once a week. And we got people like that are going to come in. That's how we're going to stay open. We're going to go out and we're going to add to those people, and this is how we're going to do it.
Yep.
That's what leadership is.
Yeah.
You show them. You tell them, hey, yeah, this fucking sucks. I can't believe the city's doing this to us. But you know what? This is an awesome opportunity for us to do X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When that road opens back up, boom, our business is going to be even stronger and bigger, because we've done all the work for the last 3 years to continue to stay open, continue our systems and processes for efficiencies and marketing and all those sort of things that make people say, you know what? Yeah, it sucks to get there, but it's damn well worth it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to recognize what's going on, invest in the things that you can, focus on what's inside of your control, and get the team in on the vision. I think is the big thing you mentioned there. But the one thing I want to go back to is talking about like the modeling, and it's how important modeling is, and then also that in those examples, rarely is the leader, the coach, whoever it is, the boss, going to act like everything's okay. I think that's the thing I always go back to. It's like, everything's not okay. There are problems, to acknowledge the elephant in the room, that kind of a thing. And then you can even show the emotion of that and then meet them where they are and then move forward. Like I can think of, I'm picturing, I want to, I'm trying to think of which game it was, but if anything, that would just dime me out of what I was pissed off and which ref I was mad at and all those kind of things. But I remember something specific this spring. Actually, I think it was up in Canada because that ref pissed me off a lot. But we were up in Canada, I think that's what it was. And there's this really bad play that happens, a terrible call. And I turn and I'm just like, this motherfucker. Da, da, da. I say all these things, right? And I'm turning, I'm looking at the bench, and all the guys on the bench are looking at me. And I say that, I let it out, and I go, sip of water. We're okay. And just turn and go. And look, as they might laugh at that, they might tell that story, but Coach Ham's a little bit of a psycho, whatever it is. But that is me showing them I am pissed off, and I flip the switch, and it's okay. Let's get back to work. And just showing that, even though, like I said, it might look like I'm a little crazy because I let myself go crazy for a little bit there. At the end of the day, if you're the person going crazy and you see that, you go, oh, I'm fine. Right? It's the hardest thing. And going back to your Apocalypse Now example, actually, I think this is an interesting piece that it's really difficult for your team to latch onto that behavior if you are modeling it so well that you're not human. And there's this, and actually, I think I'll zoom in, go to another rugby example. You coaching back in the day in high school, you talking to some of the guys about toughness and these kind of things. We're like, dude, Otis, you're a fucking Green Beret. I don't know anything about toughness. Of course I don't. There's this kind of funny disconnect there where it's like, were we learning from you? Yes. Did we get all those lessons? Yes. There's also this point where it's like, clearly you're on a different level and we can't get there. And I think that's where dropping down that level can really show, and showing that extra emotion can help to bring your team out of the crap there. I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on that before we shift back around.
Yeah, I think that's the human connection, and the human connection, knowing that the leader is not a robot and is going through the same frustrations that you are. That goes back to that empathy and recognizing and showing, man, this sucks. All right, this really sucks, and cussing, stomping your feet, but then going, okay, and as a true leader, saying, all right, well, yes, this sucks, but you know what? We're going to get through this shit, and that's the difference. And when you do that as a leader, you show that you're not some unemotional hierarchy thing. You show those emotions, and your team sees you dealing with the emotions and sees you get them the emotions, the negative emotions, back in control. You're endearing yourself to that team because they're like, oh, he's a human. He's not some robot that just bottles it all up and says, okay, this is the next one. I guarantee every one of these, I was having this conversation yesterday at lunch with Andy about, Elon Musk, first trillionaire, but, and not even going into the whole tall poppy syndrome problem. Mm-hmm. But the comment was, I hear he's an asshole. And I was thinking, wait a second. I bet he's not an asshole. I bet he says this is what needs to happen. Let's go do this. Because, Miss Suzanne sitting at the registration table on Saturday, we had actually, I think it was Friday night when she got there, but Forbes Riley that came in. Those of you don't know Forbes, she's a really neat lady that does, I think her little tagline is the pitch queen. QVC and all those sort of things back in the day. And she's like, I'm Forbes Riley. Boom. This is what I need. Do. And it comes across as a first impression of, gosh, she's a fucking bitch. But then you go, wait a second. She ain't a bitch. She just said what she wanted.
Yep. It's my whole joke. You've heard me say it a bunch about Coach Duffy here. It was like, people, is he an asshole? I think he's just from Philly. I think that's just how he talks. Like, there's something to be said for it. And and now I do think there's an interesting piece there of, I think people can have that as a cop-out. I think that their honesty and directness can be an excuse to be a dick or be a bitch, asshole, whatever verbiage you want to use for it. I think there is a line that people cross with that, and it's important to be aware of that as well. But I think there's something really truthful to that of like sometimes we don't like the people being super direct, and I think my easy example on it, because I've gotten people who roll their eyes at me when I say that kind of thing with clients and things before. It's like, look, hey, here's what I need, please. That's all it is. Like it's like if you're worried, if you want to be direct and you're worried about being an asshole, please and thank yous get you pretty freaking far. But I wanted to shift into one specific aspect of it that I feel like we covered some, but I want to make sure we zoom in as tactically as we can on it, which is getting the team out of crisis and getting them back on track. We kind of talked about the empathy, meet them where they are, those kind of things. We joked about that the hard ass shut up and get back to work doesn't really work unless you're in the army or on a rugby team. Those things don't work in business usually. People just quit their jobs and say screw you. So what do you think is like that step-by-step process to go and get the kid who's in the corner shaking because they're freaking out? How do we get them back into the desk and back to work?
Well, you have to, acknowledge and validate, start there. Mm-hmm. And then you have to show them, well, is it as bad as you think? Maybe sometimes it is. But can we do something about it? Right? I mean, if you think about the basement flooded and we lost all of our servers and now we've lost all of our records. Okay, great. That sucks. Let's figure out if there's a way through it. What are some ways that we can improve on the situation? It's the wind is blowing and it just blew my canopy away. So now I don't have any shade. Okay, well, what can I do about that? Mm-hmm. Can I go get another canopy? Can I, share with somebody else? Little things like that. And I'm just trying not to go into the major, my house burned down because there's ways around that too. Mm-hmm. I go down the road and buy a freaking RV and park it at the house. On the foundation, like other mama and papa did.
Yep.
I mean, they're like, shit, not a damn thing we can do about it. Oh, look at there. We still got electricity and water and sewer. That's pretty high living. I mean, it's a crisis and it sucks. But here, let's, because I wanted to do this too. Crisis ain't always something bad. You can have a crisis because you just won a major contract. Like a good friend of mine, his business he's getting a $10 million boost because of a contract he won. And he's running around going, holy shit, how am I going to fulfill this freaking contract over the next 90 days until I get paid? Mm-hmm. So it's a good
crisis.
Yeah, that's a crisis, right? So
yeah. The other thing I think, as you were talking about, it's like what kind of action steps do you take? Is it goes back to just what is inside your control. I think a lot of what makes the crisis get worse and feel bigger than it is that we start to look at all these things that are outside of control rather than focusing on our job, right? God, the pandemic example is just so easy. Maybe one day we'll outlive it and we'll stop using that as the example, but it's so freaking easy for all these things. It's hard not to. But we go through that. How did that affect my company? I could go back to my food waste business, right? I could not go door to door. I could not go to restaurants. That was two very specific things. There was nothing else. I felt a lot of other noise. There was so much going on, but those were the only actual interruptions to my business. Now, those are some pretty freaking significant interruptions. That's why I pivoted to Verbi and all those kind of things. But at the end of the day, there were still things that were inside of my control. And that's one of the things I go back to. And go ahead. Yeah.
If that business had been mature, like 5 years down the road, and you had,
older than 3 months,
yeah, you had the systems in place, you would have figured something out.
Oh yeah, 100%,
no doubt. I mean, it wouldn't have been, oh shit, close it up. You would have figured some way, some other alternative, just like a lot of the good restaurants did. Oh, we can't have people inside. There's a sidewalk out front. Shit. There's a parking lot. Put some tables out there, Joe. Start serving.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, it's what's inside your control, and then that also brings to mind, this is different vein of things, but I always go back to the ABCD, asset-based community development, and without getting into development economic stuff. Really, what it comes down to is, what do you have? Use what you have, and you have outdoor space. Use your outdoor space, right? You have these connections. We can do these different things. But what it goes back to is this fundamental piece. I think I love the rugby example for it, because it's easier. It's harder to picture this inside of a business, because everyone's job is so different. These tasks can look so different. But it comes back to focusing on what's inside of your control and building together some small wins to give you a sense of success, sense of a little bit of celebration, and it makes the noise of the chaos seem a lot quieter when you start to get a win, right? When you're down 40 points and you score one try, all of a sudden you're in this game, right? It takes one just to quiet that noise that little bit and give you that glimmer of hope. Now, I use the score the try example there. That's actually the opposite of the example I normally use, because to me, scoring the try, that's the outcome. We're not focused on that. We're focused on all of the small things that lead to scoring the try. And the reason you focus that way is because the small things are inside of your control. Things like effort, things like height, things like footwork. Those things are things that you should be able to control every single time. And if you are able to do that, what happens? If I'm low and I'm working hard and I bring the right footwork, I get a big tackle. Did we get a stop on defense? No, but I got a big tackle. And we got a little momentum. And then you were the next guy out and you got a big tackle. And we got a little more momentum. And then all of a sudden there's a third big tackle and they drop the ball. And now we've got the ball. Now we can go score. But it comes from these little tiny things. But those little things are the things that are actually inside your control that you can focus on. Don't waste time focusing on the outcome. Focus on the small things that are actually inside your control. And inside of the business, hey, look, I don't know what's going on. These things are all falling apart. Okay, but I can make sure that this piece is still working. Hey, I can still go check with each of our clients and make sure everyone's doing well. Go do a little check-in. That's a nice little win, right? Find those small wins that you can compound on into some bigger momentum to actually handle the crisis. But it starts with small wins to get you out of it and get some momentum going.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it just got me thinking about what I learned, and you've got some startup work to do at Engage, is what I learned.
Yes, sir.
Because if you want that organization to be around for the next president, you've got to do that. You've got to do what the second CEO has to do, and that's create the systems. If the first CEO
do you know Coach?
Do it.
Do you know Coach Terry? Have you met her yet? One of my coaches. Anyway, she said on the meeting specifically, this is the growing pains, and our next growing pains will come when we go to Phoenix or something like that. But it's this is the crisis for us right now.
Yeah. It's okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to, what's the system for Saturday morning? What's the system? I know you have a system. You stop at the Circle K and you get your ice and you get your soda or coffee or whatever it is.
Come on, coffee, Monster. Give me that Loca Mocha or whatever the hell they call it.
Yeah.
Still waiting on that brand deal, folks. Anyone knows Monster people out there, get them in contact with me.
That's it. That and Circle K. What'd you learn?
I'll tell you one thing I learned a little while ago. Circle K folks ain't too great to do business with. That's a little behind the scenes there. One of those big corporation things, I assume. But chasing a rabbit on that one.
John just retired from Circle K, by the way. So
Panama John.
Yes.
Okay. Means nothing to me. I'm sorry if it's supposed to. Well, no, what I learned today, besides that Panama John is clearly an important American figure in our history and Circle K development. But besides that, I think the important thing is whenever something's going wrong and it feels like a crisis, it feels chaotic, make a list. What's really going wrong, and it's always less. It's always 3 or 4 things. You're talking to a guy who has anxiety and depression. I'll get down those rabbit holes and I'll be feeling real low, like the whole world is falling apart. And every time I make that list to get myself out of that hole, it's usually about 3 things, never more. Just take the time to make the list. Things aren't as bad as you think they are.
Yeah, well, and if you're struggling in that crisis and creating those systems, You know what? We've got the solution here at Tribe and Purpose, and it's called CEO Jumpstart. That that program, that leadership development program, is the perfect thing for that small business that's growing or wants to grow, that has just been getting shit done, and you want to create the systems and the processes to be successful, to have an EBITDA that's actually a valuable EBITDA, to have profit in your business, to know what your numbers are. That's what CEO Jumpstart is going to help you do. So, if you're questioning your business and your systems and your processes in your business, it's time to go to 10xyourteam.net, click on that CEO Jumpstart button, and learn about how you can make yourself and your business profitable going forward.
Don't fire yourself.
Yeah, don't fire yourself. That's right. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode of 10X Your Team with Cam and Otis. Remember, you can watch full episodes of our show on YouTube at 10X Your Team. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to pass it along to other lifelong learners in your tribe so that they can enjoy it too. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. As always, that full archive of episodes available at www.10xyourteam.net. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next time.